The hostess was already pointing before they reached the desk. "We have space in the back," she said, not quite meeting their eyes. "More private." Dr. Amara Okafor did not move. Beside her, her husband David stood still, his hand light against the small of her back. Not protective, just present. The reservation had been made 3 weeks ago. Anniversary dinner. 11 years married. 35 years of friendship before that. The restaurant was called Marchand, French. Expensive. The kind of place where silence cost as much as the wine. Crystal chandeliers. White tablecloths that looked like they'd never known a stain. And portraits. Dozens of them, lining the walls in gilded frames. Donors, she assumed. Founders. People who mattered. "We requested a window table," Amara said quietly. The hostess, young, blonde, name tag reading Jessica, smiled. The smile people used when they'd already decided. "Those are for regulars. But the back is lovely. Very intimate." Amara glanced past her. 3 window tables. 2 empty. A white couple was being seated at one now, no reservation mentioned. The hostess's colleague practically gliding them into place. David's hand pressed slightly firmer against her spine. "Not yet," the touch said. "We prefer to wait," Amara said. "For a window table." Jessica's smile thinned. "That could be over an hour. We have time." Something flickered behind the hostess's eyes. Annoyance, maybe. Or calculation. "Let me get the manager." She disappeared through a door marked staff only. Amara exhaled slowly. Felt David's thumb trace a small circle against her back. Their code. "I'm here. We're fine." They'd been fine in worse places. The manager emerged 2 minutes later. Tall, angular, early 40s. Graying at the temples in a way that was probably called distinguished. His suit was European cut, his smile practiced. "Good evening. I'm Thomas Carver. I understand there's been some confusion." "No confusion," Amara said. "We'd like a window table. We have a reservation." Thomas glanced at the hostess stand, at the screen she couldn't see. "Ah yes. Okafor party of 2. Unfortunately, those tables are reserved for our patron members. Your website didn't mention a membership. It's more of an informal arrangement. For guests who support the restaurant's cultural programming." Cultural programming. Amara felt David shift beside her. "We can offer you an excellent table near the kitchen," Thomas continued. "You'll actually get your meals faster. We'll wait for a window table." Thomas's smile cooled. "Sir, Doctor," David said softly. "She's Dr. Okafor." A pause. Too long. "Of course. Dr. Okafor." Thomas folded his hands. "I'm trying to accommodate you. But if you're uncomfortable with our available seating, perhaps another restaurant would be a better fit." The words hung there. Amara looked at him. Really looked. She'd seen that expression before. In boardrooms. At conferences. The face of someone who believed they held all the power and were being generous by not using it. She thought about leaving. About the 60 other restaurants within walking distance that would seat them without ceremony. But something stopped her. Maybe stubbornness. Maybe exhaustion at always being the one to walk away. Maybe the way Thomas was already turning, dismissing them before they'd even answered. "Well, wait," Amara said. Thomas stopped. Turned back. "I'm afraid that's not possible. You have 2 empty window tables. Those are reserved." "For whom?" "That's not." He caught himself. Adjusted his tone. "Ma'am, I've explained the policy. If you'd like to dine here, we have seating available. If not," he gestured toward the door. David's hand left her back. She felt him start to speak. And then Amara saw it. Past Thomas. Past the hostess stand. On the wall, just beyond the bar. A portrait. Large. Ornate frame. Oil painting. She couldn't see the details from here. But something about it. "Fine," she said. Thomas blinked. "I'm sorry. We'll take the table near the kitchen." David looked at her sharply. She met his gaze. "Held it. Trust me." His jaw tightened. But he nodded. "Wonderful." Thomas's smile returned, bright and empty. "Right this way." He led them to the dining room. Past the window tables, where 2 older white couples were now seated, laughing softly over champagne. Past the bar, where a sommelier was explaining terroir to a trio of businessmen. And past the portrait. Amara glanced up as they walked by, then stopped. David stopped beside her. She heard his breath catch. It was them. Younger, 15 years, maybe. Amara in the navy dress she'd worn to the hospital gala. David in his Air Force dress uniform, captain's bar sharp on his shoulders. They were standing in front of this restaurant. This building, before it was Marchand, when it was still the Freedmen's Hall. Thomas had stopped, turned back. Is there a problem? Amara stared at the portrait, at the plaque beneath it, too small to read from here, but suddenly urgent. Who are they? She asked quietly. Thomas glanced at the painting, disinterested. Donors, I believe. The building has history. We keep the portraits to honor its past. He didn't know. He'd walked past this portrait every day, and he didn't know. Come along, Thomas said. Your table's waiting. Amara looked at David, saw her own shock reflected back, and beneath it, something else. Rage. Quiet. Building. She touched his hand. Squeezed once. Not yet. They followed Thomas to the back, to a table beside the kitchen door, where the sound of clattering dishes and shouted orders bled through thin walls. Your server will be right with you, Thomas said, and left. Amara sat, opened the menu she had no intention of reading. Across from her, David was vibrating with stillness. We should go, he said, voice low. Not yet. Amara. I need you to do something for me. He waited. I need you to find Thomas Carver's business license. His LLC registration. Whatever corporate entity owns this building. She met his eyes. And I need you to find out who approves the historical renovation permits. David stared at her. Then, slowly, he pulled out his phone. The server appeared with water glasses and an apology already forming on her lips. I know this isn't the best table, she said quietly. Yum. Maybe 23. Her name tag read Ashley. I'm really sorry. Amara glanced up, saw something in the girl's face. Discomfort. Maybe shame. Not your fault, Amara said gently. Ashley hesitated. Can I get you anything to drink while you decide? 2 glasses of your Bordeaux, David said, not looking up from his phone. The 2015. Ashley nodded and fled. Amara watched her go, then turned back to David. Anything. Buildings owned by Carver Restaurant Group. Thomas is principal owner. 3 other restaurants in the city. He scrolled. LLC formed 4 years ago. Before that. He paused. Before that. This building was owned by the Freedmen's Foundation. Amara's chest tightened. The Freedmen's Foundation. She hadn't heard that name in 15 years. David kept reading. Historical renovation permits were approved by the city in. Jesus. They cite the building's significance as a post-Civil War community center. Former meeting hall for black business owners. He looked up. Amara. They got tax breaks. Historical preservation grants. $2 million in public funding to restore a black heritage site. And turned it into this. Yeah. The kitchen door swung open. A burst of heat and noise. A line cook shouting about someone's garnish. Then silence again. Ashley returned with wine. Set the glasses down carefully. Have you decided? She asked. Actually, Amara said. Could you ask Mr. Carver to come back? Ashley's eyes widened. Is something wrong? Just a question about the building's history. Oh, I can ask, but he's pretty busy. I'll wait. Ashley left, quicker this time. David leaned forward. What are you doing? I want to see his face, Amara said simply. When he realizes. Realizes what? She smiled. Not the smile she used in hospitals when patients were afraid. Not the smile she used in meetings when men spoke over her. A different smile. Colder. Who we are. Thomas appeared 5 minutes later, impatience barely concealed. I understand you have a question? Amara gestured to the empty chair. Sit. Please. He didn't sit. I really am quite busy. The portrait by the bar, Amara said. The couple in front of the building. Do you know their names? Thomas's jaw tightened. As I said, they're donors. Dr. Amara Okafor, she said quietly. And Colonel David Okafor, U.S. Air Force, retired. Silence. Thomas stared at her. That's us, she continued. 15 years ago, we were on the board of the Freedmen's Foundation. We helped raise money to save this building when the city wanted to demolish it. Thomas's face had gone very still. We preserved it, Amara said, because it mattered. Because it was one of the first places black people could gather freely after Reconstruction, where they started businesses, built networks, created wealth in a country that tried to prevent both. She took a sip of wine. We raised $1.8 million from our community, and we transferred ownership to a nonprofit trust to ensure the building would always serve its original purpose. Thomas said nothing. Tell me, Amara said softly. How did the Freedmen's Foundation lose control of this building? His throat worked. That was handled by the previous board. Legal complications. The trust was dissolved. Dissolved how? I don't know the details. We purchased the property legally, with public money, David said. Historical preservation grants. Tax incentives for maintaining a Black heritage site. Thomas's eyes cut to him. We maintained it. We restored it. And turned it into a French restaurant that pushes Black patrons to the back. The words landed like stones. Thomas straightened. That's not. We don't. You literally just did it, Amara said. To us. That was a misunderstanding. A seating preference. For the people whose money saved this building. Thomas opened his mouth. Closed it. Here's what's going to happen, Amara said. She wasn't angry. Wasn't even raised her voice. Just spoke with the calm of someone who'd spent 30 years being underestimated and learned to wield it like a scalpel. You're going to seat us at a window table. You're going to personally serve us a meal that costs nothing. And tomorrow morning, you're going to call me. Call you. To discuss the Foundation's involvement in this restaurant's future. Thomas laughed. Actually laughed. With all due respect, Dr. Okafor, you have no involvement. The building's ours. Not exactly, David said. He turned his phone around. Thomas leaned forward. On the screen, a PDF of the original trust documents. The ones that had transferred ownership from the Freedmen's Foundation to a preservation trust. Not to Carver Restaurant Group. Where did you get this? Thomas whispered. County records, David said. Public access. Took me 6 minutes. Amara leaned back. According to this, the building can only be sold if the trust board votes unanimously to dissolve. And if dissolved, the property must be offered first to the original donors. Thomas's face had gone white. We're original donors, Amara said. So are 40 other families. Many of whom would be very interested to learn that a heritage site they saved is now refusing to seat their children. That's not. It is, though. Silence. The kitchen door opened. Closed. Noise swelling and fading. Thomas looked at the phone. At the documents. At them. What do you want? He asked finally. Amara set down her glass. Right now? Dinner. Tomorrow? A conversation. Next week. She paused. That depends entirely on you. The window table had a view of the square. Streetlights through autumn leaves. Couples walking. A cellist busking on the corner, his case open for coins. Amara could see everything. Thomas had moved them himself. Dismissed the couple who'd been seated there with some excuse about a private event. They'd gone, confused but unarguing, and he'd reset the table personally. New linens. Fresh flowers. Your server will be with you shortly, he'd said. Voice tight. Professional. Then he'd left. Ashley had appeared 3 minutes later, shaken but trying to hide it. Mr. Carver said, anything you want. On the house. Thank you, Amara said gently. We'll have the tasting menu. Both of you, please. Ashley had nodded and fled again. Now David sat across from her, wine in hand, looking out at the square. You know he's going to lawyer up, he said quietly. Probably. Fight this. Maybe. Amara. He looked at her. What are you actually planning? She smiled. What do you want me to say? That I have some master plan to take back the building? Sue him into bankruptcy? Ruin his reputation? Do you? She considered. No, I don't want to ruin him. I want him to understand. Understand what? What it costs. David waited. He bought a building, Amara said slowly. That was saved by people who couldn't afford to lose it. We raised money from families who worked 2 jobs. Who gave what they had because this place mattered. Because representation matters. Physical space matters. She looked around the room. At the white faces. The ease. The way no one had to think about where they sat or whether they belonged. He took that, she said, and turned it into somewhere we're not welcome. So what do we do? Amara picked up her wine. We eat. We enjoy our anniversary. And tomorrow, I make some calls. The meal was exquisite. Course after course. Amuse-bouche and palate cleansers and tiny sculptures of food that tasted like memory. They ate slowly. Talked about their daughter in medical school. Their son teaching in South Korea. The garden they were planning for spring. Normal things. Anniversary things. Around them, the restaurant hummed. Other diners laughing. Thomas moving through the room, avoiding their table entirely. When dessert came, dark chocolate and raspberry, gold leaf shimmering on top. Ashley set it down with careful hands. Was everything okay? She asked softly. Perfect, Amara said. Thank you for taking care of us. Ashley hesitated. Can I ask you something? Of course. The portrait. Is that really you? Amara nodded. I walk past it every shift, Ashley said. I never knew. Most people don't. I'm sorry. For earlier. For Ashley. Amara's voice was gentle. You didn't make the rules here. You just follow them. That's not the same as agreeing with them. The girl's eyes shone. Still. I know. Ashley left. David reached across the table. Took Amara's hand. 11 years, he said. 35 if you count the friendship. I count everything. She squeezed his hand. Me too. The next morning, Amara made 4 phone calls. The first to her lawyer, an old friend from law school who specialized in property rights and nonprofit law. I need you to look into a trust dissolution, she said. Friedman's Foundation. And I need to know if it was legal. Give me 48 hours. The second call was to Marcus Reed, former city councilman, current community organizer, someone who knew where all the bodies were buried. Marcus, it's Amara Okafor. Dr. Okafor. Been a minute. I need a favor. Or maybe I'm offering you a story. She explained. The building. The grants. The way Thomas had treated them. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. You know what this is, right? He said finally. Gentrification. Yeah, but specifically, it's erasure. They take our history and sell it back to us as ambience. I know. So what do you need? Pressure. Media attention. I want every donor who saved that building to know what it's become. Done. The third call was to the mayor's office. Amara didn't know the mayor personally, but she knew his chief of staff. A woman named Lisa Chun who'd worked with the Friedman's Foundation years ago. Lisa, I need to talk about historical preservation grants. What about them? Specifically how they're monitored. And what happens when a building stops serving its designated purpose? Lisa sighed. Amara, what did you find? Fraud, maybe. Definitely betrayal. Send me everything. The fourth call was to Thomas Carver. He answered on the third ring. Dr. Okafor. Mr. Carver. I said we'd talk. I've spoken to my lawyer. Good. So have I. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to meet with me and the original donor families. We're going to review how you acquired this building. And then we're going to discuss making it right. I don't have to. No, you don't. You can refuse. And I can call the local news and explain how a restaurant owner took $2 million in public funds meant to preserve Black heritage and used it to create a space that discriminates against Black patrons. Your choice. Silence. What do you want? He asked finally. A partnership. The building stays a restaurant. I'm not unreasonable. But the foundation gets a seat on your board. We establish a community fund from your profits. And you implement real training on bias and inclusion. That's non-negotiable. More silence. And if I refuse, then we pursue legal action to reverse the trust dissolution. Tie you up in court for years. You'll spend every penny you have on lawyers while we turn this into a national story about cultural theft. She heard him breathing. 1 week, she said, to decide. After that, the offer expires. She hung up. 6 days later, Thomas called back. I'll meet with you, he said. And the donors. Good. But I want something too. Amara waited. A portrait, he said, of you and your husband. Current. To hang beside the old one. With a plaque explaining what you did. What this building means. She hadn't expected that. Why? Because you were right. I didn't know. I should have. And if I didn't, my staff didn't. My patrons didn't. He paused. I can't undo what happened. But I can make sure it doesn't happen again. Amara looked across the kitchen, where David was making coffee, sunlight warmed through the windows. Okay, she said quietly. We'll sit for a portrait. 3 months later, on a cold Saturday in January, Amara stood in Marchand again. The restaurant was closed for a private event. The donor families. 50 people, 3 generations, filling the space with noise and warmth and laughter. On the wall, 2 portraits now hung side by side. The old one, young Amara and David, full of hope and determination. And the new one, older, grayer, still standing. Still here. The plaque between them read, Dr. Amara Okafor and Colonel David Okafor, USAF, read, Founders, Friedman's Foundation who saved this building so we could all gather here. Thomas approached, nervous, holding a glass of champagne. Thank you for coming, he said. Amara studied him. Saw something different. Humility, maybe, or the beginning of understanding. Thank you for listening, she said. He nodded and moved on. David appeared beside her, 2 plates of appetizers in hand. Think he'll keep his word? He asked. I think he'll try. That's enough to start. And if he doesn't? Amara smiled, looked around the room, at faces she'd known for decades, at children who'd become adults, at a space that had been saved, lost, and saved again. Then we keep fighting, she said simply. Like we always have. David kissed her temple. 35 years. Give or take. I'm not counting. Liar. They stood together, plates in hand, surrounded by their community in a building that had always belonged to them, even when someone tried to take it away. And for the first time in 15 years, Amara felt it clearly. They were home.